Welcome to Heartbreak Chronicles. At 7:15 p.m., dark clouds over Boston heralded the arrival of a storm. Marcus stood in the doorway of the auditorium, checking his cell phone for the third time, hoping to hear from Diana. He wore a carefully chosen dark blue suit, the engineering medallion on his chest glinting in the light, but his eyes stayed on the screen. Still no reply? Patrick, a coworker, asked, tapping him on the shoulder. Marcus shook his head and forced a smile. She's probably on her way. The hospital should be busy today. Patrick was about to say something, but eventually just nodded. You're the star of the night. Don't let anything get to you. Come on in. The awards will be starting soon. Marcus looked around again, took a deep breath, and followed Patrick into the auditorium. He is one of Boston's most promising structural engineers and will be honored tonight for his innovative designs in the city's historic building restoration program. This is a major milestone in his career and a testament to all the hard work he has put in over the years. However, when the MC announced his name and the room erupted in applause, his eyes unconsciously went to the empty seats in the back row of the auditorium, the seats reserved for Diana. After the awards ceremony, Marcus politely declined his colleague's invitation to celebrate and drove home alone. Rain began to pound on the windows of the car, and he turned on the windshield wipers while his thoughts drifted back to the conversation he'd had with Diana 2 weeks ago. Honey, next Friday is the day I get my award. Can you make sure you don't have plans that night? Marcus asked from the breakfast table, anticipation in his eyes. Diana was busy answering work emails, and without looking up replied, Yeah, I know. I'll check the schedule. It's really important to me, Marcus insisted, and I want you to be there. Diana then put her phone down and gave him a light smile. I'll do my best, okay? In retrospect, that best effort was clearly not enough. Marcus parked his car in front of his house, where the rain had formed small streams running along the street. He didn't rush out of the car, but sat there, letting the rain fill the space inside. He pulled out his cell phone and dialed Diana's number, only to have it go to voicemail again. Diana, the ceremony is over. I don't know where you are, but I hope all is well. I'm going home, and I hope to see you there. His voice was calm, but he couldn't hide his disappointment. Marcus walked into the house, which was dark. He turned on the lights and found the living room and kitchen empty. There wasn't even a note left on the table. He took off his soaked suit jacket and walked to the refrigerator, pulling out a bottle of beer. Just then, the phone vibrated with a text from Diana. I'm sorry, it's Michael's son's birthday today, and I promised to help organize the party. There was so much going on that I completely lost track of time. It's just over now, go right home. Marcus stared at the message and felt a tingle. Michael is a colleague at Diana's hospital, a surgeon. Diana had mentioned him several times as a single father who needed help in raising his son. You remembered I'm getting my award tonight, right? Marcus replied. The text message came quickly. Oh my God, totally forgot. I'm really sorry. We can celebrate tomorrow, okay? Marcus did not reply. He finished his beer and went into his study, placing the trophy on the bookshelf. What should have been a memorable day was made bitter by Diana's absence. He sat down at his desk, turned on his computer, and mindlessly skimmed through the files. An hour later, he heard the front door open. Marcus. Diana's voice came from the hallway. In the study. He answered briefly. Diana appeared in the doorway with an apologetic smile on her face. She was wearing a bright red dress and sophisticated makeup, not at all like she had just returned from a kid's party. I'm really sorry, she spoke up. The party lasted longer than expected, and my cell phone ran out of battery. Marcus gazed at her. You're dressed formally just for a kid's birthday party? Diana's expression stiffened slightly. Oh, this. Michael said it was a more formal restaurant, so we all dressed up a little. So it's not just you and the kids? There are a few other co-workers, Diana explained. Just a small gathering. Marcus nodded and turned his gaze back to the computer screen. I understand. Diana approached him and placed her hand on his shoulder. How was the awards ceremony? You must be brilliant. It's not bad, Marcus replied calmly. Everyone asks about you. I'm really sorry, Diana apologized again. I know this is important to you. I promise to make it up to you. Marcus did not respond. He felt a strange emotion spread through his chest. Not anger, not sadness, but a deep suspicion. Diana looked so perfect, like she was well prepared and not just returned from a messy children's party. I'm going to take a shower, Diana said. And when Marcus didn't respond, she added, "And then we can talk." As the water in the bathroom rumbled, Marcus sat in place, his thoughts racing. This isn't the first time Diana has missed his big moment because of work or Michael. Over the past few months, her behavior has become increasingly strange. Frequent nighttime emergency calls, weekend work meetings, and secret text messages that she thought he hadn't noticed. When Diana gets out of the shower, she tries to make up with Marcus, but he's already lost in his own thoughts. In the dead of night, he lay in bed, determined to learn the truth, no matter how painful the outcome. The next morning, Marcus decided to talk to Patrick. Patrick was his most trusted coworker in the company and one of the few people who knew about his personal life. "I'm not sure I should tell you this," Patrick whispered from the cafe, "but as a friend, I think you have a right to know. I saw Diana with a man in the hospital parking lot after the company party last month. It's intimate." Marcus felt his heart race. "Are you sure it's her?" Patrick nodded. "I'm pretty sure. I was going to tell you, but you were busy with projects at the time, and I didn't want to add to the stress. In hindsight, I probably should have said something sooner." "The man, can you recognize who he is?" Marcus asked, his voice shaking slightly. Patrick hesitated. "I didn't get a good look at his face, but judging by the build and posture, it's probably that fellow doctor she's always mentioned." Marcus took a deep breath. "Michael." "Maybe," Patrick said carefully, "but you shouldn't jump to conclusions based on my observations alone. There may be a rational explanation." "Maybe," Marcus replied, but his instincts told him that the problem was far more serious than Patrick could see. Back at the office, Marcus can't focus on his work. He opened his computer and logged into their shared cloud storage account, hoping to find some clues. While browsing through the photo folder, he noticed a significant decrease in photos in recent months, while Diana's social media feeds were constantly updated with new photos, only they were never shared with him. At lunchtime, Marcus decides to head to the hospital where Diana works. He tells the receptionist he's here to bring his wife lunch, only to be told that Diana has taken the day off. The news sent a wave of vertigo through him. Diana had clearly said she was going to work when she left the house this morning. He drove home, calling Diana's cell phone on the way, but there was no answer. Upon arriving home, he went straight to their bedroom and started looking for any possible clues. In Diana's dresser drawer, he found a spare cell phone, something he'd never seen before. The phone is password protected, but Marcus manages to unlock it after trying a few of Diana's usual password combinations. There are only a few contacts on the cell phone, but there are a lot of text messages with a contact named M. Marcus's hand trembled slightly as he read the messages, the contents of which unmistakably confirmed his worst fears, that Diana was carrying on an affair with Michael. The latest word is that they plan to meet today at a vacation home on a lake. Marcus writes down the address, his insides intertwining anger, betrayal, and determination. He needed to confirm the truth with his own eyes before deciding how to respond. Marcus drove to his lakeside vacation home, and the rain got heavier on the way. When he arrives at his destination, he immediately recognizes Diana's car parked in front of the vacation home. He parked a little farther away and walked over to the cabin window. Through a gap in the curtains, he saw Diana and Michael sitting on the couch in front of the fireplace, glasses raised, talking intimately. No kids, no parties, just two adults steeped in betrayal. Marcus snapped a couple photos as evidence and left quietly. On the way home, his thoughts were unusually clear. He will not act impulsively or question on the spot. He needs a plan, one that will make Diana and Michael pay for their betrayal. Later that night, Diana returned home, acting as if nothing had happened as usual. She made up a story about lunch with a coworker and even detailed a new restaurant that didn't exist. Marcus listened quietly, smiling, as if completely convinced of her lies. It was at that moment that he made his decision. He was going to give Diana a taste of betrayal, let her experience what it would be like to lose everything. Over the next 2 weeks, Marcus began to meticulously plan his revenge. First, he gets a private investigator to look into Diana and Michael's relationship in detail. The detective, a retired police officer named Reynolds, is experienced and charges reasonable fees. "What type of information do you want?" Reynolds asked during their first meeting. "Everything," Marcus replied. "How long their relationship lasted, where they met, who knew about it, and most importantly, whether there were any financial or professional interests involved." Reynolds nodded. It'll take time and probably cost some money. Doesn't matter, Marcus said. I need hard evidence. In the meantime, Marcus consulted a lawyer friend, Gordon, to learn how to maximize his rights in the divorce proceedings. In Massachusetts, extramarital affairs do affect property division and compensation, Gordon explains, but you need hard evidence, not just suspicion. I'll have the proof, Marcus assured. I just need to know how to best utilize them. Gordon explained to him in detail various legal strategies, including how to protect his assets and how to take the initiative in litigation. The third and most complicated part of the process involves Diana's career. By scrutinizing the hospital's policies and structure, Marcus found that Diana and Michael's relationship may have violated the hospital's code of ethics, especially given Diana's influence over the allocation of resources as an administrator and Michael's position as a department chair. Reynolds brought in the first detailed reports during the third week of the investigation. According to the report, Diana and Michael's relationship lasted at least 8 months, well before Marcus' initial suspicions. They use hospital charity events and conferences as fronts for what are actually dates at various upscale hotels and vacation homes. Even more shocking, the report reveals that Michael's son, the child Diana often mentions as needing her help, has actually been living in Chicago with his ex-wife and only occasionally comes to Boston to visit his father. One thing that's odd, Reynolds notes, is that they seem to be particularly careful not to let other colleagues at the hospital know about the relationship. From what I've seen, it's probably because there's some sort of professional conflict of interest. That's exactly the kind of information Marcus needs. Further investigation revealed that in the past 6 months, projects led by Michael had received an unusually high allocation of resources, and these decisions had been approved by Diana's department. Although there was no direct evidence that Diana had benefited Michael through her authority, the coincidence was sufficient to raise the hospital board's concerns. Marcus also discovered that Diana and Michael often communicated on social media using cryptic codes, such as liking specific types of photos on Instagram as some sort of signal. Ironically, it was these digital footprints that Diana shared publicly that provided valuable timeline evidence for Marcus' investigation. After making sure all the evidence is gathered, Marcus begins to execute his plan of revenge. First, he reported Diana and Michael's relationship and possible conflict of interest to the hospital's ethics committee and board members via an anonymous email. The emails contained corroborating photographic evidence, a timeline, and a suspicious pattern of resource allocation. For added credibility, he included a screenshot of a provision in the hospital's policy manual that explicitly prohibits such relationships. Next, he began to adjust his financial arrangements. At Gordon's suggestion, he transferred most of the funds from the joint account to his personal account, while documenting unusual expenditures Diana had made on dates and gifts over the past several months. He also updated his home and vehicle insurance information to ensure maximum protection of his assets during the divorce process. The third step involves their social circle. Marcus began to selectively contact mutual friends, not to directly expose Diana's infidelity, but to subtly mention questionable details, such as social events that Diana frequently missed or her suspicious whereabouts on specific dates. This strategy ensures that when the truth finally becomes public, social support networks will tend to sympathize with him rather than Diana. Last but not least, Marcus has prepared a special surprise. He chose their wedding anniversary as the day to reveal the truth. He makes a reservation at Diana's favorite restaurant and tells her he wants to make it up to her for missing his award show. Diana has no doubt about it, and is even pleased that Marcus has suddenly become considerate. She had no idea that this dinner would change her life forever. On the morning of the anniversary, the hospital's ethics committee sent out its first official notice of investigation. Diana was on her way out the door when she received the email, and her face turned pale instantly. "Is everything okay?" Marcus asked with concern, as if he knew nothing of what was about to happen. Diana forced a smile. "Oh, it's just a little trouble at work. It's no big deal. I'll see you tonight, okay?" "Of course," Marcus smiled. "I can't wait." After Diana left, the hospital's investigation proceeded quickly. By noon, both she and Michael were asked to attend an emergency meeting to face questioning from the board of directors and the human resources department. The evidence is overwhelming and irrefutable. Both men were immediately suspended pending further investigation. While Diana and Michael are trying to cope with a career crisis, Marcus is executing the final stages of his plan. He contacted several local media outlets and anonymously provided tips about the misconduct of hospital executives, ensuring that the scandal would be widely reported. He also sent hints about the dinner surprise to mutual friends via social media to make sure enough people would be interested in what happened that night. At 6 p.m., despite the chaos of the day, Diana showed up at the restaurant on time. She looked exhausted, but still tried to hide the panic inside. Marcus acted thoughtful and concerned, asking about her day as if he really didn't know what was going on. "There's some problems at work," Diana equivocated. "But don't worry, it'll be sorted out soon." "I'm sure it will," Marcus replied, a hidden glint in his eyes. "And I'll be there for you no matter what happens." Halfway through dinner, Marcus pulls out a beautiful gift box and hands it to Diana. "A special gift for our anniversary," he said with a smile. "I hope you'll like it." Diana opens the gift box and is horrified to find inside a stack of photos and a printout of her text messages, clearly showing her secret relationship with Michael. Some of them were filmed at a lakeside vacation home on the very day she was absent from the Marcus Awards. What is it?" Her voice trembled and her face turned instantly pale. "You know what it is," Marcus replied calmly. "Your little secret with Michael. But it's not a secret anymore, is it? I think the hospital's ethics committee has talked to you today." Diana's eyes were filled with shock and fear. "Marcus, I can explain, Dash." "There's no need to explain," Marcus interrupted her. "Everything is clear. You betrayed me. You betrayed our marriage, and you used your position to benefit your lover. That's why I not only reported your relationship to the hospital, but also provided evidence of your possible professional misconduct." Diana's expression changed from horror to anger. "How dare you? It's my job. Do you know how many years it took me to climb to this position?" "Of course I know," Marcus replied calmly. "Just as I know how many years it took me to build our marriage. But what's that to you? All Michael has to do is hook his finger and you'll leave it all behind." Diana suddenly raised her voice. "You always do. Calm, rational, like a fucking robot. Don't you get it? What I need is emotion, passion. Michael gave me that. And you only care about your work, your projects, your awards." The other guests in the restaurant began to turn their heads to look at their tables. Marcus stayed calm. "Let's go home and talk, before your performance ruins the atmosphere of this restaurant." Back at home, the argument escalated. Diana continues to defend herself by accusing Marcus of ignoring her emotional needs, claiming that this is why she is seeking an affair. "You're never home," Diana exclaimed. "Even when you're home, your mind is always on work." Marcus shook his head. "Don't blame me for your betrayal. I may be busy at work, but I have never been unfaithful to our marriage. We could have solved the problem by communicating, but you chose to cheat." "You don't understand," Diana cried. "Feelings aren't that simple. Sometimes things just happen." "Things don't just happen." Marcus' voice was firm and calm. "It's your choice, Diana. Now you must face the consequences of that choice." Diana's attitude changes from anger to panic when she realizes that Marcus not only has evidence of her extramarital affair, but has also reported it to the hospital's board of directors and has already begun divorce preparations. "Please, Marcus." She fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. "Don't do this. I love you, and I'll end everything with Michael, and we can start over." Marcus looked down at the woman he once loved and felt a strange calm. "It's too late, Diana. I've contacted a lawyer, and you'll receive the divorce papers tomorrow. As far as the hospital is concerned, that's a matter for the board to deal with." "You can't do this," Diana suddenly screamed. "You can't ruin everything for me." "I ruined everything for you," Marcus sneered. "It wasn't me who betrayed our marriage. It's not that I gave up a 10-year relationship for a coworker. You made your choice, Diana, and now it's time for consequences." Diana cried and pleaded, trying to take Marcus' hand. "You don't understand. Michael was just a momentary lapse for me. Our marriage was the real deal. Please, don't compete with the baby for my attention." Marcus looked at her in shock. "Children? What child?" Diana realizes she's spoken out of turn and covers her mouth in horror. "Michael's son isn't just a kid you help take care of, is he?" Marcus slowly realizes what's going on. "That's your baby?" Diana couldn't answer, just sobbed in agony. "I need an answer, Diana," Marcus insisted, his voice low and dangerous. "Is that child yours? Wasn't it a child you had with Michael during our marriage?" Diana finally nodded weakly, "Yes. But that's not what I want. Things just happen." This final truth shattered the last shred of hesitation in Marcus' mind. He turned toward the bedroom and began to gather his belongings. "What are you doing?" Diana asked in horror. "I won't stay a minute longer in this house of lies," Marcus replied coolly. "I'm going to a hotel for a few days until I find a new place to stay." "No." Diana ran to the door and tried to stop him. "Please don't leave me. We can fix that. I'll pay any price for my mistake." Marcus looked at her with nothing but ice in his eyes. "You're already paying the price, Diana. And that's just the beginning." He walked around Diana and towards the front door. Diana dropped to her knees in desperation and grabbed his leg. "Please, Marcus. Don't do this to me. I love you." "Love?" Marcus shook his head. "You have no idea what love is. True love means loyalty. It means respect. It means honesty. Everything you do is the opposite of love." He gently broke away from her hand and walked out the door. Outside, the rain had stopped, and a bit of starlight showed in the Boston night sky, as if it were a blessing for his new life. The hospital board's investigation came quickly and thoroughly. Within just 1 week, Diana and Michael were officially suspended pending final disposition. The investigative team identified multiple resource allocation anomalies where decisions were directly related to Diana's approval and Michael's project. While not enough to constitute legal fraud, it has been a serious violation of the hospital's code of ethics. Meanwhile, Marcus's divorce proceedings are progressing steadily. He hired one of Boston's most prominent divorce lawyers, Charlotte Wilson, a woman known for her ruthlessness and efficiency. Charlotte scrutinized all of the evidence provided by Marcus, focusing specifically on Diana's financial misconduct. "It's a strong case," Charlotte said at a conference. "Extramarital affairs, secret children, financial deception, professional misconduct, all of which can make the judge very favorable to you." "I just want justice," Marcus replied. "I want her to pay for her behavior." Charlotte gave him a sharp look. "In legal terms, just means that you'll get an advantageous division of your property, possible damages, and full control of your joint assets. Is that what you want?" "Yes," Marcus said firmly. "Exactly." Unlike Diana, Michael seems to have more resources to deal with the crisis. He hired top-notch attorneys to try to disassociate himself from Diana's professional misconduct. His strategy was to blame Diana for everything, claiming that he had only passively accepted the allocation of resources and was unaware of any impropriety in those decisions. When Diana learns of Michael's betrayal, she breaks down. At a hospital hearing, Michael publicly stated, "My relationship with Diana Walker is purely personal in nature, and I have never asked or implied that she should provide any special treatment for my project. If there was any misconduct, it was a completely unilateral decision on her part." Those words completely destroyed Diana's last line of defense. After the hearing, she attempted to contact Michael, but he refused all calls and requests for meetings. She even went to wait outside his house, but only saw Michael leave in a hurry without even giving her a look. Meanwhile, Marcus's revenge plan includes a social dimension to the blow. He began strategically revealing details of Diana's betrayal to mutual friends, placing special emphasis on the fact that she was concealing children. This information spread quickly, causing many friends to shun Diana. "I heard about what happened," their friend Rachel said during a coffee meeting with Marcus, "and I'm really sorry. I never thought Diana would do something like this." Marcus smiled bitterly. "I didn't expect that either. People never fully understand the people they think they understand." "She tried to contact me," Rachel said hesitantly, "but I didn't know what to say. On the one hand, she's my friend. On the other, what she did was too much." "You don't need to alienate her for my sake," Marcus said graciously, knowing that this display would only make Rachel more on his side. Everyone should make their own decisions. But in reality, Marcus' carefully cultivated image of victimhood is working. He comes across as calm, rational, and forgiving, in contrast to Diana's hysteria, which makes everyone more inclined to believe and support him. The divorce proceedings are going well. At the first hearing, the judge made clear his displeasure with Diana, especially when the evidence had showed that she had used money from the joint account to buy gifts and pay for vacations for Michael and their children. Ms. Walker, these expenditures clearly constitute a misappropriation of marital assets, the judge said sternly, which will be taken into account in the final property division. Diana's attorney attempted to defend her, claiming that she acted out of emotional distress, not malice. But this defense pales in the face of hard evidence. The hospital's investigation ultimately concluded that both Diana and Michael had violated the code of ethics. However, thanks to the efforts of Michael's legal team, he was only penalized with a demotion and transfer, while Diana was completely fired and required to return improperly obtained bonuses and benefits. "That's not fair," Diana yelled at the hospital's human resources director when she was notified. "Why am I the only one getting the harshest punishment? Michael is just as responsible as I am." The human resources director calmly responded, "Ms. Walker, the evidence shows that you used your administrative authority to allocate additional resources to Dr. Cooper's program. As a manager, you have a higher ethical responsibility. In addition, your failure to disclose a personal relationship with Dr. Cooper is a direct violation of our conflict of interest policy." As she walked out of the hospital doors, Diana felt a sense of loneliness and despair that she had never felt before. She lost her job, her reputation, her marriage, and even the love of her life, who she thought would support her, abandoned her. She sat in her car, tears streaming down her face, not knowing where to go from here. Meanwhile, Marcus' career is flourishing. His company recognizes the professionalism he demonstrates during a personal crisis and promotes him to take charge of an important new project. He started attending more social events to re-establish his social circle. Although he never volunteered to talk about Diana, when asked, he always responded in a calm and slightly sad way, earning him more sympathy and support. Diana tries to contact Marcus several times, pleading for forgiveness and help, but Marcus maintains firm boundaries. He communicated with her through his attorney and refused any request for a private meeting. "I know you're in a tough spot," he wrote in a brief email, "but I can't and won't help you. Our relationship is over, and the only contact we have now is through an attorney to complete the divorce process. Please respect that." This cold rejection plunges Diana into deeper despair. She began drinking heavily and became emotionally unstable. She even risked losing her license after a DUI arrest. Meanwhile, her battle with Michael for custody of the children becomes more and more intense. Michael used her professional and personal life meltdowns as evidence to claim she was unfit to care for a child. He presented evidence of Diana's alcoholism and emotional instability, including her arrest record for driving under the influence. Dr. Cooper has provided sufficient evidence that Ms. Walker's current living situation is unfit to raise the child, the family court judge said at a hearing. And in consideration of the best interests of the child, the court temporarily grants custody to Dr. Cooper, with supervised visitation for Ms. Walker. This ruling completely crushed Diana. She lost the last thing that meant anything to her, her child. Even though this child was conceived out of wedlock, Diana does love him deeply. Now, even limited visitation rights have become difficult because she cannot afford stable housing and a suitable environment for visitation. The divorce was finalized 6 months later. According to the court judgment, Marcus received 70% of their joint property, including the house and most of their investments. Not only did Diana receive no compensation, but she was also required to pay a portion of Marcus's attorney's fees. Considering her current financial situation, this would be an almost impossible task. Marcus arranged a small party after the divorce papers were signed, inviting several close friends. It is a subtle declaration of victory, although he never directly refers to his victory. "Thank you all for your support during this difficult time," he said as he raised his glass at dinner. "Life can be surprising at times, but true friends will be with you in the dark moments. Thank you for being my light." Meanwhile, Diana's life continues to spiral downward. After losing her high-paying job and her reputation, she was only able to find a low-paying job as an administrative assistant that didn't pay enough to maintain the lifestyle she once had. She was forced to move out of Boston to a more distant suburb and rent a small apartment. The medical industry seems to have closed all doors on her. Whenever she applied for a job comparable to her previous position, The background check revealed a history of professional misconduct. Even for lower-level positions, once the employer learns about her past, they will find all kinds of excuses to reject her. On a particularly desperate night, Diana makes one last call to Marcus. Marcus, her voice was hoarse from crying. I know you hate me, and you have good reason. But I lost everything: job, home, friends, kids. I can't even pay next month's rent. I don't know what to do. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Finally, Marcus calmly replied, I don't hate you, Diana. But I also no longer love you or have any responsibility for your life. The situation you're in is the result of your own choices. If you are really desperate, you can contact social services and they will provide the necessary help. Are you that heartless? Diana cries and asks. 10 years of marriage means so little to you? No, Marcus replied coolly. It's you who sees 10 years of marriage as worthless. You chose to betray me, cheat on me, and even have another man's child in our marriage. Now the time for consequences has come. After hanging up, Marcus felt a strange calm. He had loved Diana once, and that love had once been so strong that the pain of betrayal had almost suffocated him. But now that pain had been transformed into a calm satisfaction. His plan for revenge was executed perfectly, and every step of the way had the desired effect. Diana has lost everything: career, reputation, friends, family, financial stability, even her children. And he, Marcus, not only achieved greater professional success, but won the sympathy and support of all. A few weeks later, Marcus meets Sophie, a talented art curator, at an art gallery opening. Sophie is nothing like Diana. She's outspoken, independent, passionate, and most importantly, extremely values honesty and loyalty. Their relationship develops slowly but steadily, built on mutual respect and sincerity. You know, I just went through a painful divorce, Marcus told her honestly on their third date. And it's going to take time for me to fully trust a new relationship. Sophie nodded understandingly. We have plenty of time. It's important that we're honest with each other, even about the things that are difficult. Marcus smiled and took her hand. That's what I admire most about you. A year later, Marcus and Sophie's relationship deepens. They begin to discuss the possibility of cohabitation and even consider future marriage plans. Marcus felt a sense of peace and fulfillment that he had never felt before, as if the shadows of the past had finally dissipated completely. Meanwhile, Diana's life continues to be a struggle. She was unable to find work in the medical field and had to accept various temporary positions. Her drinking problem intensified, causing her health to deteriorate. In a drunken accident, she broke her wrist and lost her job at the time. Without a steady income, she was unable to pay her medical bills and eventually had to file for bankruptcy protection. To add to her misery, her relationship with her children became increasingly distant. Michael used her precarious living situation to justify limiting visitation, and the court was inclined to uphold his claim. Diana is heartbroken when her child starts calling Michael's new girlfriend Mom. Walking alone on a cold winter's day in Boston, Diana sees a familiar news story. Marcus's company has won an industry award for innovative design, and he's pictured standing on the podium next to a radiant Sophie. They seemed so happy and successful, in stark contrast to her current miserable state. Diana stopped and stared at the picture in the paper, tears welling up again. She used to have that kind of life: a successful career, a loving husband, social status, financial stability. And now, all is lost, only because of her selfishness and betrayal. A few days later, the hospital held its annual charity dinner. As an important industry event, many medical professionals attend, including Michael, who is slowly regaining his reputation after being demoted. To his shock, Diana also appeared on the outskirts of the dinner, looking haggard and obviously there to see him. We need to talk. Diana stopped Michael, who was about to enter the meeting. About our children. Michael eyed her warily. We have nothing to talk about. The courts have ruled that custody is with me. He's my child too, Diana said excitedly, her voice drawing the attention of those around her. You can't just take him out of my life. You took him away from yourself, Michael responded coldly. When you decided to drink, when you couldn't hold down a steady job and a place to live, when you let your life fall apart. I wouldn't expose my children to that. Our children, Diana corrected, her voice becoming more hysterical. Don't think I don't know what you've done. You used me, then abandoned me, and put all the blame on me. Security is drawn to the noise, and Michael takes the opportunity to rush into the venue, leaving Diana crying outside the door. The scene was videotaped by several attendees and quickly went viral in medical circles, further tarnishing what was left of Diana's professional image. Meanwhile, Marcus and Sophie's relationship continues to grow. On one particular weekend, they took a walk along Boston Harbor and enjoyed the view of the setting sun turning the water golden. "There's something I want to tell you," Sophie smiles. "I've been nominated for the City Arts Council. This is the position I've always dreamed of." "This is great." Marcus sincerely congratulated her. "There is no one better suited for this position than you." Just as they were reveling in the moment, Marcus noticed a familiar figure in the distance. Diana stood by the dock, looking out over the ocean in solitude. She looked much older than she remembered, as if 10 years had passed in just over a year. She didn't notice them, just stood there quietly, her shoulders shaking slightly, probably crying. "That's not?" Sophie asked hesitantly. "Yes," Marcus nodded. "It's her. Do you want to go over there?" Sophie looked at him with concern. Marcus shook his head. "No, that's in the past. I've moved on." It was at that moment that Diana turned around and met Marcus on all fours. A complex array of emotions flashed through her eyes: shock, shame, sadness, and perhaps a hint of remorse. Marcus calmly nods his head in greeting to her, then takes Sophie's hand and leaves. He had no hatred, no anger, only a calm certainty that justice had been done and everyone had gotten what they deserved. Diana lost everything, and he gained a new life. It was not a revenge he had deliberately devised, but the just verdict of life itself. A few days later, a story shocked the Boston medical community that Diana Walker, a former hospital executive, had been arrested for drunk driving and possession of contraband. The report mentions her multiple DUI convictions and her broken-down state at the time of her arrest. The photos show her in a very different light from her hospital days, with hollow eyes and a gaunt face. There was no gloating in Marcus' mind when he saw the news. Only a calm realization this was the path she had chosen for herself, the end result of her betrayal and deception. She could have had it all: a successful career, a solid marriage, a loving husband. But she chose to betray, and now she must suffer the consequences. The year after their divorce, Marcus and Sophie were married in a simple and cozy ceremony. Unlike in the past, this time Marcus is sure that his marriage is built on solid foundations: honesty, respect, and genuine love. On the day of the wedding, he received a text message from an unknown number. "Congratulations on finding true happiness. I had the same opportunity once and foolishly threw it away. I hope your new wife knows how lucky she is. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. D." Marcus read the text message, but didn't reply. Some things can't be undone. Some hurts are too deep to heal. He put his cell phone aside, turned to his bride, and began a new chapter in his life. Meanwhile, Diana's case is in court. She faces the possibility of potential incarceration due to a record of multiple offenses and charges of possession of contraband. Her attorneys tried to get her a lighter sentence, citing the breakdown of her personal life and professional failures as mitigating circumstances. But prosecutors insisted on a harsh punishment, with special emphasis on the threat to public safety posed by her DUI. When the judge announced the sentence, 6 months in jail plus 3 years probation, Diana just nodded woodenly. Her eyes were vacant, as if she had long ago accepted it all. Across the pond in Boston, Marcus is standing in the yard of his and Sophie's new home, admiring the first flowers of spring. The ringing phone interrupted his thoughts. "It's Patrick. Have you heard?" Patrick's voice was full of shock. "Diana got a prison sentence." "Yes, I saw the news," Marcus replied calmly. "You? Is it okay?" Patrick asked carefully. Marcus looks at the flowers blooming in front of him and remembers the years he spent with Diana, how she betrayed him, how she almost destroyed his world, and how he got back on his feet and exacted the perfect revenge. "I'm fine," he said finally, with a deep sense of satisfaction in his voice. "Better than I've ever been." After hanging up, Marcus took a deep breath of fresh air. Revenge is long and hard, but the results are worth it. Diana pays the heaviest price for her betrayal. She loses everything, and he gains everything. As night falls and Marcus snuggles up with Sophie, he feels a peace he's never felt before. The storm has passed, and the sun is shining again. He can finally let go of the past completely and embrace the future wholeheartedly. And in her cold prison cell, Diana lies alone on her hardboard bed, thinking back on the life she had lived and the crucial decision she made when she chose to betray Marcus. She effectively betrayed herself. Now, after losing everything, she finally realized this painful truth. But it's too late. It's too late. That's the end of today's story. For more captivating tales, hit subscribe and never miss an episode.